Have you ever wondered why you have the investments you do? Do you have those investments to be safe, or do you have those investments to grow? Do you have those investments to be fully liquid, readily available, or not? Have you ever wondered if you could have all three? Or is there some kind of a compromise that has to be met? Well, coming up, we're going to talk more about that so you can make a good decision for yourself.
Retiring well, helping you make smart decisions with your money so you can live a better life. Today is the day you can take back control of your money. Retiring well, where we believe your best is yet to come.
Hi, welcome back to Retiring Well. Listen, today we're talking about investments. Do you have your investment to be safe, or do you have your investment to grow? Do you have your investment to be liquid or not? Or can you have all three? Listen, or does it have to be some kind of a compromise? Today we're going to talk about investments so we can help you make a better decision as to where you want to be in that spectrum. Listen, banks have their version of safe investments, okay? They would be what you call a savings account, right? Or maybe it's a CD. And if you let them hold it a little bit longer and it's in a CD, they're going to give you a little better interest rate, right? Insurance companies have their version of a safe product. They're called fixed annuities. They kind of look like a CD in a way. They guarantee your principal, and they give you a guaranteed interest rate just like a CD. But what's the difference? Well, with a CD, you're holding that with a bank. With a fixed annuity, you're holding it with an insurance company. Now, the government has their form of a safe investment. It's called a bond, right? Now, so government bonds. Now, I don't want to get this confused with a mutual fund that holds government bonds. But what if you hold that bond directly? Well, it's being guaranteed by the government unit itself, whether that be a municipality or the U.S. government. They're guaranteeing your principal that they're going to pay that back to you, and then they're giving you also a guaranteed rate of return or interest. So you look at the similarities of these financial instruments that are on the safe side of things, and what do you have? Well, they're all guaranteeing that they're going to pay you a certain amount back, or they're guaranteeing your principal per se, right? They're also guaranteeing how much interest you're going to get back. So we kind of call this the world of the knowns, right? We know our principal, we know when it's going to get paid back, and when, and we know what kind of rate of return we're going to get back for our money. So these are some similarities between all these financial instruments, whether it be the bank or the insurance company or the government itself. But there is something also common with all of these right now in this low rate interest rate environment we find ourselves in, right? They're not paying you a lot for your money, right? You're not getting the growth that you necessarily maybe want. Now, it'd be great if we could get back to those days where we had double-digit interest rates, right? But folks, we're not in that. Now, we're entering into what's called a rising interest rate market, so it's going to be nice to see if we can see those rates get a little better over time, but we're not quite there yet. So in a lot of cases, if we're looking for growth, we're maybe moving a little closer to what we call those unsafe investments. All right, so you got your safe investments. Your principal is guaranteed, your interest is guaranteed, but maybe I'm not getting a lot of growth. So what's over here on this other side? What does these unsafe investments look like, where I might be taking a little bit more risk to try to get a little bit more growth? Well, you have mutual funds. Now, mutual funds can hold a lot of different kinds of securities. You can have mutual funds holding large company stocks. You can have mutual funds holding small company stocks. They can hold bonds. They can hold international stocks. They can hold a number of things. But because they're holding securities, they're going to have some risk associated with them, because in some cases they can go down in value. Now, some more so than others, right? Or some might one year be up and some another year down. But the fact is, if I'm over in what I call the unsafe investments, trying to get a little bit more growth, maybe taking a little bit more risk on, I'm going to have to live with the fact that they're not going to be totally safe. Do you know where you're at in the spectrum? Whether you're on the safe side or the unsafe side? Listen, today I can only talk in generalities, but I don't know what your individual circumstances are or what your needs are. I encourage you to give us a call so we can sit down, find out what those are, and make sure that the financial instrument you might have is in line with your wants and needs. Now, I want you to stay tuned because we're going to talk more about these unsafe investments, but we're also going to talk about possibly some hybrids. These things that have a strong, have an element of both safety and maybe risk. So stay tuned.
Today's retirement challenges can be mastered. Knowledge is power because you can confidently plan ahead and make educated financial decisions for a successful and comfortable retirement. We are Centennial Wealth Advisory, Northern Michigan's financial advisors specializing in retirement planning with offices in Traverse City, Petoskey, and Gaylord. And we invite you to an informative and exciting live event with a complimentary gourmet dinner. You'll learn highlights of the new Tax Reform Act, the difference between fiduciary and suitability standard of care, how an IRA gets taxed to a surviving spouse, how two similar portfolios can end up with two drastically different results, what a bull market is and how long it can last, and much more. Call 888-608-5825 to register and choose the date and location that works best for you. Tuesday, January 15th at Big Buck Brewery in Gaylord. Wednesday, January 16th at Boone's Long Lake Inn in Traverse City, or Wednesday, January 23rd at Cadillac Grill at the El Dorado Golf Course in Cadillac. The live event starts at 6 p.m. and is free to attend with a complimentary gourmet dinner to follow. But seating is limited and fills quickly. Call 888-608-5825 to reserve your seats today. There is no cost and no obligation. Don't miss this important live event. Educated financial decisions. Call 888-608-5825 today. Retiring Well is now also airing on radio, bringing you insights from Northern Michigan's financial advisors specializing in retirement planning. Every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580. Don't miss Retiring Well Radio, every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580.
Hi, welcome back. Listen, folks, today we're talking about investments. I talked about in the first segment those that tend to be safe. You know, the banks have what they call savings accounts, CDs. Insurance companies have their version of safe, which is, you know, fixed annuities. And then you have the government has their version of safe, which are bonds. And I mean, when I say bonds, directly holding that bond, not a bond fund. And we called that the world of the knowns, right? We know our principal, what it's going to be, when it's going to get paid back, and we know the interest we're going to make on that account. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about, again, this world of what we call the unknowns. Now in this world, there tends to be, in many cases, investments in securities that don't guarantee that the principal is going to be there. They could have some downside to them, right? They may have an element of risk, or what we call not necessarily have full safety, right? We talked about mutual funds and the various things that they could hold. But also in this environment, it's just wide open. It's basically all those things you can hold in a brokerage account, for example. It could be those mutual funds. It could be stocks themselves. It could be bonds. It could be those bond funds. It could be limited partnerships. How about real estate investment trusts? Options. It could be futures. It could be commodities. Listen, there's a lot of different investments out there, and in that world of the unknowns, they all have the same thing. You're speculating and hoping that they go up in value, but sometimes in many cases, they can go down in value. And again, we call this the world of the unknowns. Now, I want to talk to you about another world, though, you may not be familiar with. It's kind of a hybrid. It has an element of both of these. Take, for example, an equity-linked CD. Okay, this is a CD with a bank. In a lot of cases, they will guarantee your principal to make sure you can't lose. But instead of giving you that guaranteed interest rate, they're going to tie it to some index or something else out there, some commodity or the like, for growth. So let me give you an example. You have an equity-linked CD, maybe it's 5 years in length, and let's say it's tied to the S&P 500. And now the S&P 500 is just the largest 500 companies in the U.S., right? And so what they're going to say is, okay, you're at point A, we're going to look at that index, the S&P 500. In 5 years from now, we're going to look at it again. If the S&P 500 is down in that 5-year period, well, your principal is guaranteed, you're going to make zero. But if the S&P 500 is up, we're going to let you participate in that growth as some percentage. Let's say they say 50%. All right, so you get none of the down, but they give you 50% of the S&P 500 if it's up. Now in this case, can you see how it's kind of a hybrid? I've got an element of safety because they've guaranteed my principal, but I'm taking a little element of risk because I don't know whether that index is going to be up or not at the end of that period. Now, insurance companies have a version of a hybrid as well. It's called a fixed indexed annuity. It also guarantees your principal and also ties your interest that you're going to make to some index in this case. Now, it's a little bit different than an equity-linked CD because they typically want you to be in for a longer period of time, but they also will credit interest in between. So for example, let's say this is a fixed index annuity with an insurance company, and they're saying they're also tying it to that same index, the S&P 500. They're going to look at it every year and credit interest accordingly. So you have to understand when they credit interest, that also is going to get locked in. Now these are instruments that are held with an insurance company, but they have an element of safety and an element of risk or growth because you don't know what that index is going to do. Listen, folks, there's a lot of financial instruments out there, and knowing what you have is very important. So I encourage you, if you'd like to learn more about, the various financial instruments out there and what might be best suited for you, then you're going to want to give us a call. Now stay tuned because I'm going to talk in Chalk Talks about safety, growth, liquidity, and how you might strategize to have a little element or maybe get a little bit of all those happening for you. So stay tuned.
Retiring Well is now also airing on radio, bringing you insights from Northern Michigan's financial advisors specializing in retirement planning. Every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580. Don't miss Retiring Well Radio, every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580. Today's retirement challenges can be mastered. Knowledge is power because you can confidently plan ahead and make educated financial decisions for a successful and comfortable retirement. We are Centennial Wealth Advisory, Northern Michigan's financial advisors specializing in retirement planning with offices in Traverse City, Petoskey, and Gaylord. And we invite you to an informative and exciting live event with a complimentary gourmet dinner. You'll learn highlights of the new Tax Reform Act, the difference between fiduciary and suitability standard of care, how an IRA gets taxed to a surviving spouse, how two similar portfolios can end up with two drastically different results, what a bull market is and how long it can last, and much more. Call 888-608-5825 to register and choose the date and location that works best for you. Tuesday, January 15th at Big Buck Brewery in Gaylord. Wednesday, January 16th at Boone's Long Lake Inn in Traverse City, or Wednesday, January 23rd at Cadillac Grill at the El Dorado Golf Course in Cadillac. The live event starts at 6 p.m. and is free to attend with a complimentary gourmet dinner to follow. But seating is limited and fills quickly. Call 888-608-5825 to reserve your seats today. There is no cost and no obligation. Don't miss this important live event. Educated financial decisions. Call 888-608-5825 today.
Hi, welcome back. Listen, if you're just joining us, we're talking today about investments. We talked in the earlier segments about those that are safe, those that are unsafe, and then some that have a little element of both. Listen, have you ever seen that sign? I think they used to be in the store windows at times, but it said, price, quality, service, pick any two. Listen, when you're looking at investments, no matter what it is, you're going to have a strong element of two of those three. Let me give you just some examples. Take a savings account. It's fully safe, right? It's fully liquid, readily available for me at any given time. But am I going to get a lot of growth in this low interest rate environment? Not as much possibly as some other investments, right? So I'm getting safety, I'm getting liquidity, but maybe not getting all the growth I maybe desire. Take, for example, a stock bond portfolio, right? It also is fully liquid. You know, I can sell those securities and convert it to cash at any given time, right? It has great growth potential because I can make 30-40% possibly in a given year. But what don't I have? I don't possibly have safety, right? Because it can also lose 30-40% in a given year possibly. Listen, you know, in this particular case, I'm getting liquidity, I'm getting growth, but maybe not getting all the safety I want. Now remember in that earlier segment I was talking about those indexed annuities, right? Those fixed indexed annuities that you might have to get with an insurance company possibly. Well, what are they offering? Okay, they're offering complete safety because they're guaranteeing your principal and they're giving you adequate growth if the market cooperates, because remember the income is tied to the market. But what am I giving up? You're giving up liquidity because that insurance company is going to want you to be part of that program for a period of time. So I'm giving up some liquidity. I'm getting safety, I'm getting maybe growth if the market cooperates, but I'm giving up liquidity. Listen, all financial instruments are going to, as you can see, are going to give you a strong element of two of the three, right? Well, today I want to show you something. I want to give you maybe a way that you might approach this that you've never seen before, but I want to show you how you might be able to approach this in a different way. See, a lot of us, what we do is we have all our eggs in one basket. And then when we get a strong element of two of the three of those things, we got to understand, what is the one thing that I'm giving up? Well, maybe there's a way for us to get all of them working together. So you got safety, growth, liquidity, all right? What if I had one strategy? Let's just call that strategy 1. Okay, where maybe I'm using a financial instrument like a fixed index annuity, which remember is with an insurance company, and maybe they're giving me that safety I want, maybe they're giving me that adequate growth, but I'm going to give up liquidity in this particular case for a certain portion of my total portfolio. And then let's say I use strategy 2, where I had a financial instrument, for example, that might continue to give me that safety, all right, might keep it fully liquid, but maybe I'm not going to get all that growth that I want. Maybe that's like a CD or a fixed annuity in this particular case that's with an insurance company. And then maybe I got strategy 3 with a certain portion of the portfolio where I go after that growth, okay, but I want to keep the liquidity, so I keep that, but maybe I'm going to give up safety in this particular case. Now, when you structure it in this way, what am I doing? By not having all my eggs in one basket, by diversifying my strategies per se, what I'm doing is mitigating the negative of any one strategy by having offsetting strategies counter it. So here with strategy 1, where I'm giving up liquidity, maybe I'm only giving up liquidity on, let's say that was 1/3 of the portfolio. And I keep 2/3 of it fully liquid. What if in strategy 2 here, I know I'm giving up some growth, but I'm keeping my liquidity and I'm keeping a certain portion safe. And then what about here with strategy 3, where I'm going after that growth, keeping it liquid, but knowing I'm giving up safety, but only on, let's say, maybe 1/3 of the portfolio. Can you see by maybe structuring it this way, I might be able to get a little better outcome because I can get maybe being a little compromise between these, I can get all three of these elements going? Listen, folks, you're going to want to call us, because if you want to know how to maybe structure what you have accordingly, then we can talk about these. We can talk about the various financial instruments out there and maybe how they might play a role in this for you. So stay tuned. We're going to be right back right after this break.
Do you have a plan for how to generate income during retirement? Are you going to run out of money? In today's marketplace, retirees have concerns about the volatility of the market. People have concerns that the traditional balanced portfolio strategy that advisors used in the 80s and 90s isn't good enough in today's new normal economy. There are more secure options available for you today, and that's what we specialize in here at Centennial Wealth Advisory. If you don't yet have a plan or would like a second opinion on your retirement income plan, please call us today for a free, no obligation, complete retirement review.
Today's retirement challenges can be mastered. Knowledge is power because you can confidently plan ahead and make educated financial decisions for a successful and comfortable retirement. We are Centennial Wealth Advisory, Northern Michigan's financial advisors specializing in retirement planning with offices in Traverse City, Petoskey, and Gaylord. And we invite you to an informative and exciting live event with a complimentary gourmet dinner. You'll learn highlights of the new Tax Reform Act, the difference between fiduciary and suitability standard of care, how an IRA gets taxed to a surviving spouse, how two similar portfolios can end up with two drastically different results, what a bull market is and how long it can last, and much more. Call 888-608-5825 to register and choose the date and location that works best for you. Tuesday, January 15th at Big Buck Brewery in Gaylord. Wednesday, January 16th at Boone's Long Lake Inn in Traverse City. Or Wednesday, January 23rd at Cadillac Grill at the El Dorado Golf Course in Cadillac. The live event starts at 6 p.m. and is free to attend with a complimentary gourmet dinner to follow. But seating is limited and fills quickly. Call 888-608-5825 to reserve your seats today. There is no cost and no obligation. Don't miss this important live event. Educated financial decisions. Call 888-608-5825 today. Retiring Well is now also airing on radio, bringing you insights from Northern Michigan's financial advisors specializing in retirement planning. Every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580. Don't miss Retiring Well Radio, every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580.
Welcome back to Retiring Well. John Torbett and Art Canfield, financial advisors and senior partners here at Centennial Wealth Advisory. And we've been talking, Larry's been getting into these three different investment worlds and talking about how this safety, growth, liquidity, what that all looks like. But Art, I wanted to get into how we like to talk about maybe your goals, strategies, and tools, and sort of how that plays a role in your overall retirement plan. So if you don't mind, share a little bit on that.
Yeah, I love this scenario, you know, and we do a lot of this and we talk through it with our clients, and it can be really eye-opening in many cases. If you kind of think goals, strategies, and tools kind of in three columns. Okay. You know, let's go backwards here first. Tools. What are tools? Well, they're objects to help you get a job done, right? You think of a contractor, a construction job, they're going to have a plethora of tools that help them build the house or repair the home, stuff like that. But what do we have as tools as financial advisors? Well, they're basically stocks, mutual funds, bonds, CDs, cash, gold, annuities. I mean, you name it. There's, I don't know what the number is anymore, probably thousands of different investment tools out there that can be constructed to build your portfolio, right? Sure. And that's one thing. So you mentioned strategies. Now, John, why don't you talk a little bit about that, because that's a lot of what we do here.
Right. So, I mean, you ultimately, what you were talking about are different investment tools, which would be maybe part of your investment strategy. But prior to getting into the investments, you need to understand, especially come retirement, what your income strategy is going to look like. How much much income are you going to be drawing from the portfolio, and therefore trying to match up to make sure those investments match up. But then along with that, I always look at income and taxes hand in hand. So what is your tax strategy? Or if you have 401ks, IRAs, the like, what is your exit strategy? What does that look like over your lifetime as far as drawing that money out? And then, of course, you get into your estate plan, that type of strategy, legacy strategy, insurance strategy, all these different ones that come into play. And again, not quite as long of a list as the tools, but there's a number of different strategies that you need to be considering when you're looking at your retirement plan.
Right, right. And I know then, so the one thing, John, when you originally said, the one word we haven't talked about is goals. What is that? Everybody really knows what a goal is. You may set these goals at your New Year's resolution, whether it's, to eat better, to lose weight, to get your finances in order. All those are your goals. And when we look at the financial world here, it's a little bit more of, what do you want to accomplish with your money? What is this money for? Is it for retirement? Well, then what in retirement is it for? Do you want travel, grandkids? There's so much more of this. Or is it saving for college education, or saving for that first home, or whatever it is? It's important to understand your goals in investing, because how can you invest if you don't know what the end goal is?
Exactly. And that's where, unfortunately, we find too often with a lot of financial advisors, as we were talking through these columns, Art, and we were talking about goals, strategies, tools, too often the advisors, I think, focus so much on the tools, they forget to really look at strategies or goals. And so they start from this side, tools, and then work their way over, whereas we would prefer the approach of, okay, let's understand your goals. What are your objectives? What are you trying to accomplish in retirement? And then, okay, let's talk through what those different strategies might look like and how those may need to be adjusted as time moves along. And then lastly, what are those investment tools that would match up based on that? And so that's been a lot of our focus at Centennial Wealth Advisory.
Yeah, I always jokingly say our industry as financial advisors is a little bit flawed, because for so long, I think people have been sold tools. They've been sold a product. Whether that product is good for you or not is probably a question mark. Have you had that strategy discussion? Have you had that goal discussion? And I think that's a piece that so often is the value piece that people are missing.
Sure. And that's where ultimately, there's so many things to be looking at in a retirement plan, and you don't want to just simply rely on what those investments are, because that's not going to be your end goal. It's more focused on, okay, what are you trying to accomplish in your retirement? Maybe you've been in that growth and accumulation phase for all those years as you're trying to build the portfolio, but now it's time to transition that to more of a preservation and income phase. And what are the specific strategies and tools you need to use in that? So.
Well, folks, if you're sitting here and you haven't had this goals, strategies, and tools discussion, give us a call. We'd love to have it with you. Let's talk through what you want that money to do to you. Whether it's retirement, let's build out those strategies so that way the proper tools can be plugged in there so you could have the highest probability of success in your retirement, and you actually can do and accomplish those goals that you so desperately want to do, that you've worked so hard for. Give us a call and we're happy to sit down with you. Thanks for watching Retiring Well. We'll see you next week.